Yes, team. Welcome to another episode of the Total Mental Performance Podcast. Today we have an absolute gem of a human being. We have Tom Dickinson. Tom is one of my one-to-one clients. He's the managing director of OSI Ltd. So they are a leading supplier of office furniture for schools across the UK. He's a motivational speaker and he's a mental health advocate. He's got such a powerful story. And he's one of my favorite breeds of human beings. He's very good at what he does and he's a lovely, lovely man. Tom, welcome to the
Yeah,
podcast.
that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about me.
Oh, come on. I'm not buying that for a second.
No, thank you, mate. I really appreciate that. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, welcome. So just share with our audience, like, who is Tom? What do you do? How do you work? How do you operate? Yeah.
So I'm currently the managing director of OSI. So we provide educational and office furniture within the UK. And my dad actually started that company in 1993, and I took over in 2021. So it's now split between myself, my brother, and my sister. So we've been running that. I've been winning the business since I'm 30 in December. I've been winning the business since I was 19. So I love what I do. I love the business. I love the people that work within the business. The business is doing very well. I like to think we've taken it to the next level since my dad retired, which is great. And we're going to take it to another level in the next 12 to 18 months as well, which is super exciting. We've got everything in place thanks to you and people that you've introduced me to. So I'm super excited for that. And I also started a motivational speaking business back in 2019, which is Tom's Talks. So the motivation behind that is quite a sad story, to be fair. I lost my brother, as you know, very sadly to suicide in 2015, following substance abuse and an addiction to ketamine. One night, sadly, we'd had a massive argument, and I found him, and he'd taken his own life, which, yeah, it had a profound impact on me and the family, but then led me to a point where I was in a really dark place a couple of years later. But the motivation behind my story is to say that this awful thing happened. I was then to the brink of, suicide, but I managed to turn my life around. And, fast forward to today, 2025, almost 10 years after my brother passed away, I'm in the best place I've ever been. I'm doing some really cool things. I'm feeling great physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And the story for me is, I was in a really bad place, but if you don't give up and you don't quit, you can achieve great things and you can get to where you want to get to. So that's me, and that's been my journey for the last 10 years.
Yeah. Beautifully succinct. And we've spoken about your past and your history, and we'll go into that a little bit more later in the podcast. But something that you do that I really want to commend you for is you speak in schools.
Yes.
Because it's all well and good, going on the paid speaking circuit and turning up at big conferences, but actually, like 2-3 times a week, you're in schools sharing this message.
Yeah, definitely. And how it all came about was, so back in 2018, I still do a lot of the sales now, but I was primarily just sales representative for the business. And there was a school in Sheffield, King Edwards, and there was a lady called Bex who was the head of sixth form. She still is. Lovely human being. And I was having various meetings with her for some of the furniture for that part of the building, and we got on really well to a point where I told her what happened to my brother, and I said I've just come off the back of a real struggle myself, and I'm wanting to do something to give back. Don't know what it is, don't know what it looks like, but that's where my head's at. I feel like I can help.
Yeah.
I said, okay, yeah, great. I commend you for that. And that was it. That nothing really happened for a couple of months. And this was before the 6-week holidays. Our 6-week holidays happened, our busiest period of the year. We delivered the furniture, and in September I had an email saying, Tom, thanks very much for the furniture. It's great. We've had an awful 6 weeks. 2 of our kids took their own life. I think what needs to happen is you need to share your story. Would you be up for it? So I rang and I said, I am so sorry to hear that. Of course, I'll do whatever we need to do. We sat down from September till January, and we put together what was the initial presentation that I've got now. And yeah, January 2019, I stood up in front of the sixth form at King Edward School, and I delivered it for the first time. And I remember doing it, and the lump in my throat when I started to talk about what happened to my brother. And I'm like, come on, Tom, get through it. You can do this. And I got through it, and I got to the end, and I remember the last thing that I say, and it's been the same ever since, is suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And I remember saying it, and although it was the first time that I'd done it, the feeling has remained the same ever since, and the reaction from the audience has remained the same ever since. Everybody looks at me, you can hear a pin drop, and for me, it is the best feeling in the world. Nothing compares to it. And that's where Tom's Talks was born. I posted it on social media, and then from there, it just went from there, yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about that moment with your brother and how that impacted you.
I'm not gonna lie, mate. I would not wish it upon anybody. Liam had a turbulent number of years before he passed away. I always say in my talks, you could put him on a desert island with no drugs, booze, crime, or violence, but he'd find all four. He was a fucking nightmare at times. He was just that way out. I loved him to bits, and as we grew older, we got closer and closer. But I remember watching, I think it was Goodfellas, one of the best films ever. And you know me, I'm extremely ambitious and driven, and so was my brother. But he'd be like, right, let's buy half an ounce of some drug and let's go sell it. And I'm like, nah, why would you do that? Like, look at these guys, they end up dead or in prison. He's like, nah, this is what we need to do. And I'm like, that was just what he was like.
It's his path.
That was his path. And I always say to people, like, we didn't grow up on a council estate. You know, we were very lucky growing up. My dad built the business to what it was before he retired, and you know, we were very fortunate. You know, you would look at Liam and think, why are you choosing to do some of the things that you're choosing to do? But you know, everybody can have the same upbringing, but it doesn't determine the same outcome. But the most pivotal point for Liam was that when he was 16, he had a really tragic road accident. He was on a moped coming down from the main road from school, and a car pulled out, and he went into the car, and he was in hospital for months. He had a brain damage. He was in an induced coma, and at the time, obviously, I didn't know what I know now. I would have been 13 or 14 at the time, but being on this journey with Tom's Talks and understanding more about mental health and the reasons why somebody may struggle, you know, the trauma that my brother went through, everything that he experienced, I think really damaged him mentally, and a lot of insecurities. But when he turned 18, he got about 50 grand in compensation. And at that point, 18 years old, I think he was really struggling with his mental health. He was dabbling heavily in different drugs. One in particular was ketamine. He was hanging around with the wrong people, making wrong choices, and then was fueled with 50 grand. Which at 18 years old, for anybody any age, is a lot of money, but 18 years old, that's a shitload of money. And that fueled his addiction. And I would always say to him, you know, why? But at that point, from 18 to 22, before he passed, my older brother and sister, Jem and Alex, they'd moved out, and me and Liam lived with my dad. My mum and dad are remarried, and my dad was always on holiday, enjoying himself, enjoying his hard work, rightly so. And then it was always me and Liam. And then there was always two sides to that. There was one where it was great. You know, we'd have parties all the time. We'd have his friends round. We used to have our freedom. We used to do whatever we wanted. And there was the other side where I'd walk in on my brother high on ket, and then have to deal with him in a ket hole. Have to pick him up off the floor. You know, shout at him like, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, why you're not on a Saturday night out in the clubs? Like, it's a fucking Tuesday morning, making breakfast. Like, what are you doing?" But obviously, he was addicted, and that's addiction. And I would always say to him, I remember, as you say, why the fuck are you taking this drug? Like, what are you doing? You know, you've got all these amazing things around you. You've got me, you've got the family, you know, you live in this big house that Dad's provided for us. Like, why do you feel the need to take this drug? And he said, it's an escape from reality. Well, why the hell do you need to escape your reality? But that's mental ill health.
That's mental illness.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's he was in so much pain that was his escape from what he was feeling. I've spoken to you about my ADHD, and addiction is a part of ADHD, and I've had various different addictions that have come up, and it's always been an escape from how I was feeling about myself or feeling about the world, and looking for a bit of respite. One thing that I read this I was so fortunate to read it early, which is if you can choose your addictions, you'll win the game of life. If your addictions choose you, you'll lose the game of life. And your brother was essentially in a hole, which was he was just trying to get out. And everybody's doing the best of what they have, you know. Like it's when you're having something like brain injuries that can create a lot of polarity in the way in which you feel and the way in which you experience reality. You experience that so young. There's lots of things that he can't do. Again, he's looking at, you know, the world around him, and he's probably going, why can't I do the things that my brothers and sisters can? Why can't I go out and achieve? Or why have I got to be in this recovery place? And just sounds like it got too much.
It did, mate. Yeah, I remember my mum used to say from an early age, Liam will end up as Prime Minister or he'll end up dead.
My school teacher actually said that to me, but he said I'd end up in prison.
Yeah. So, but yeah, unfortunately the latter happened, and yeah, it was just a spiral from 18 to 22. And I remember he went to Australia for a period of time to get away from it. And I remember I was on a video call with him, and I said, you know, have you been getting on it? Have you been doing anything while you've been out there? He said, honestly, mate, you can't get hold of it out here. He went, cocaine is about 5 times as much as it in England, and I can't afford that. Not that was his drug of choice, but and he went, I've done ecstasy a few times. I was like, well, okay, that's a lot better than it is in England. And the saddest thing was that he only came back because he missed us that much. And then he came back, and I remember the day he came back. It was the day before my 18th birthday. He came back and he jumped out the sofa when I walked into the living room. He surprised me. And then that night, we went to one of his friends' house, and he did it as soon as he got back. I was like, for fuck's sake.
Well, sometimes as well, it's environment, right?
Yeah,
the same environment, same triggers. You know, you fall back into various different habits. Here's a super simple example. I had an eating disorder, food addiction, and that happened when I was a boxer and I was still living at home, and that happened for years. Even now, when I go back to my parents' house, some of the same habits kick in. I walk into the kitchen, I open one of the cupboards, I then open the fridge, I then start wanting to eat, and I'm a conscious observer of that, right? Of these same habits. So your environment you create these loops, you know. And when he went to Australia, all those loops were cut, and when he's come back to his home environment and he's just repeating the same habits, he's got the same feeling, right? And you know, especially when it comes to substances, the reaction essentially is a response, right? Which is, here is the stimulus in my environment. I'm at home. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling insecure. I'm feeling triggered. I'm feeling angry. Whatever that emotion is. How have I dealt with that in the past? I did this, and that's it.
Yeah.
So after that happened, how did you rebuild from that? Because that's an earth-shattering moment. How does Tom?
Yeah, I think that the mistake that I made was I obviously saw the heartbreak that it caused, not only for our family, but us as like the community that we lived in. Penistone in Barnsley, Sheffield, is quite a small place, lovely area, but you know, the ripples of heartbreak that it caused for so many people. And I remember being at his funeral, and there was about 500 people at his funeral. Such a popular guy. But I remember looking at my mum, and my mum, as you can imagine, was devastated, as we all were, but more than anybody, my mum. And I just said to myself, it don't matter, like what I've seen, what I've been through, it don't matter. Like, I need to be strong, and I need to be the one that's going to get my family, and more importantly, my mum, through this period. And I remember I had a week off work, and I went straight back to work. I went straight back into the gym, just straight back to doing what I normally do. And I think we've spoke about this. This is where an insecurity of mine is the hard work of trying to prove myself and everything like that. But it was the biggest mistake I could have made. I didn't let myself grieve. I didn't let myself take the time that I needed. And I just sort of pushed it all to the bottom, suppressed everything, and chose to forget about it, which was a big mistake, you know. And then it was 2 years later, it all just hit me like a ton of bricks. I think it was either coming up to my 21st or 22nd birthday, and I remember just feeling so sad. Like, I just wanted to cry all the time. Anything would just make me upset, and I would just cry. And I remember going up to my brother's memorial bench that my dad had built for him, and I was just sat there and just cried for ages and just thinking, why the fuck do I feel this sad? Like, what's wrong with me? And thinking to myself, I've got no reason to feel this way. Why do I feel like this? Which increasingly made me more frustrated and more sad. But looking back now, like, I can obviously see the journey that I'd been on, and I can see why that happened, and combine that with a few of the issues going on in my life. I remember I was still working for my dad. I remember getting to a customer, and I had to pull the windshield down and get the mirror, and I looked at myself and said, fucking pull yourself together. Give myself a little slap on the face. And I remember having to do that, to go and like face reality and speak to people. And I look back now and I'm like, obviously in a really, really bad place. And even in that moment, it wasn't until maybe 12 months or maybe a little bit longer that I realised how much of a dark place I was in and how depressed I was. In that moment, I couldn't see it. It took a long time for me to look back and actually admit to myself, you were severely depressed at that point. You were in a really, really bad place. And there was one evening in particular where I'd been at the pub with my friends. I'd walked home from the pub back to my dad's. And I remember there was a certain part in this journey where it was pitch black, and I just walked past this bridge, and I looked back and I thought, you know, if I jump off it, if I kill myself, is this sadness, is this pain going to go away? And I know I didn't want to die, but I just wanted the pain to go away. And I got back. I obviously, thankfully, didn't make that decision, but I got back and I got home in bed, and I was just ruminating in my own thoughts, thinking, fucking hell, has it got this bad? Like, is this how sad I actually am? But even at that point, even getting home that night and getting in bed, I still didn't realise how bad it actually was. It wasn't until months later I look back and I think I was in a really, really bad place.
Sometimes you have to stare into the abyss, you know, for you to actually contemplate and realise, wow.
Yeah.
And sometimes these things creep up on you, the dark moments where life starts to lose its colour a little bit, starts to get a little bit darker, a little bit colder, and you start to disconnect from yourself, from the world. And, you know, you had that moment where you stared into the abyss and you didn't make that cool, and it worked out pretty well, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes, grief is the ultimate expression of love, because you cannot experience that much grief if you didn't love someone that much.
Yeah.
So what happens with a lot of ambitious men when they're dealing with grief is they just bury it and they go back to work. I've got various different instances of that, and you know, in the short term, it's a great way of getting away from how you're thinking and feeling. But in the long run, it'll just start to leak out, and because you hadn't dealt with those emotions in the way in which you were feeling, your body essentially was exhausted from having to suppress that emotion, because it takes more energy to suppress emotion than it does to process it and express it.
Yeah.
So you was essentially carrying this burden to get through to that next league and that next level. You got to go to the darkness sometimes, and that is the league. You know, everyone talks about the next league. Sometimes it is the bottom league, and you've got to slum it in there, and stuff happens, and eventually you get to a point where you go, right, I've got to come out of this.
Yeah, you've got to do it, and that's the thing. You know, you'll know as much as anybody. I think I would give anything. I would generally give anything just to have one more conversation with my brother. But everything happened for a reason, and me and you probably would be sat here right now if all that didn't happen. And that's life. You know, life is a whirlwind of shit. It's about how you navigate your way through it. And it just got to a point where I said, this can't continue. I need to do something about this. And luckily, that's when I started to really focus on myself and focus on my mindset. And I just doubled down, and it came to a point then where I started seeing one of my closest friends doing really well, and I feel like I'm capable of great things. And then from there, it just all changed. And then everything started to look up, and then did my first talk, and then obviously there's been a few ups and downs since then, but everything's been a blessing ever since.
So let's dive into that then, because there was an acceleration period. Was there anything that you did that helped you get into that acceleration period? Was it a couple of years before you stepped into the MD role and took over the company? Like talk me through.
Yeah, so I think I started working for I started working for my dad when I was 19, and it wasn't really until my dad said in my in a speech that he did at my wedding that I realised I feel like I always had like the bit of entrepreneurship inside of me and that drive. Because he said, you know, you worked at a gym when you were 16 and you went in at 5 o'clock in the morning. Most 16-year-olds wouldn't have done that. And then, until he said that in the speech, I never really thought about it like that. I think I've always wanted to work and I've always wanted to work hard. But I think it was really about 21, 22 when I think I realised I was actually quite good at sales. And the numbers started coming in and I was seeing the commissions that I was getting. I was like, oh, I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah.
And then I started to read books on sales and self-development, and I just got obsessed with like becoming the best version of myself. And then my circle started to change. One of my best friends, Elliot White, who was one of the most amazing human beings you'll ever meet, he is one of the most hardworking, driven people you ever meet, and he's got a very successful recruitment business. And me and him became really good friends. And he would send me Snapchats at like 11 o'clock at night on his laptop, like, yeah, I'm fucking getting after it. And I was like, fuck, I want to do that. And then we started rubbing off on each other, and then it was just like a whirlwind from there, really. And then my life just went like that. It was mental.
The power of a top sparring partner in business and in life is amazing. And it sounds like in Elliot, you found that sparring partner.
Definitely. And Elliot as well, and also one of my other closest friends, Lloyd, who he is an owner of a estate agent company in Barnsley. Probably Lloyd first more than Elliot, because Lloyd was actually Liam's best friend. And when Liam passed, he sort of put his arm around me and said, Liam, I'm going to look after you. And he's equally as driven as well and doing great things. And I think the combination of having those two, I was like, nah, I'm going to beat you this month. I'm going to beat you. And then, but in a healthy way. It was just a really exciting time. And yeah, everything from there is just onwards and upwards.
When you have healthy conversations with good sparring partners, you push each other, you pick it, you know when to put an arm around each other, right? You know, let's write off this month, this quarter, let's go again. And then there's other moments where you get a kick up the arse, like, no, you're being lazy now. Or actually, like a bit of tough love is always helpful, you know? And it sounds like you found those, sounds like you found your groove. Tell me about the mindset switch to go from an individual contributor and obviously managing a team, but then going to MD, because it's a different role. And yeah, all of a sudden you're not just looking at sales targets, you're starting to look at P&Ls, you're looking at cash flow forecasts, you're looking at obviously the logistics side. There's a big switch. Not everyone can make that switch from just business development to responsible for the business. Yeah,
it was an interesting time. So my dad, so at that 22, 23-year-old Tom stage, that's when I was sort of saying to my dad, I was asking questions about the business, and we was discussing various things and topics, and I was asking him, like, what's your future? Like, what do you want to be doing? And my dad would always be a little bit more reserved on what he'd share. He'd never give me the full answer. And then COVID happened. And then my dad just sort of said, I was sort of saying, I want to step into this role, Dad. I'm ready for it. I want to do it. I'm grafting my ass off. Like, what are you doing? Because I'm doing all this work and I'm getting paid what I'm getting paid. The normal kind of conversations that you have with your line manager or your dad or whatever. And then he just turned around one day and said, I'm going to retire. And me and my sister were like, really? Because my dad is like the Duracell bunny, he never stops. And he'd built a business from literally his garage to £3 million turnover before he retired. And he was like, nah, no, surely not. Like, you're not retiring. He was like, nah, I am. He went, I've realised that during COVID, all this free time, I can fill it. And I don't want to do it anymore. And then he literally went, this is what's going to happen. We sort of bought him out. Various things happened internally. And then he went, there you go, crack on. There was like no sort of transfer in like numbers or anything like that. He just threw me in the deep end and said, see how you get on at 25 years old, and then took on like 16 staff and this turnover, and it was either sink or swim. But luckily, one thing I'm really, really proud of is from that first year, went from 2.9 to 4 million in the first year, and I still look back and think, fucking hell, did we do that? But it was either sink or swim. You either did it or you didn't, and we did it.
What was the hardest part for you? Was it a skill set? Was it a mindset shift? Was it a feeling of responsibility? Like, what would you say was the bit for you? Was like, whoa, this is different.
Yeah, it was the responsibility that it's not just me now. Like, I've got to put food on the table I've got to help provide the revenue and the profit to give people an income so they can put food on the table. It's not just me. And I think there was a switch there where, like, I was like, I'm going to be the first one in, I'm going to be the last one to leave, because, you know, I'm the top of the food chain. I'm the one that's got to do it. And if I don't do it, then who is? And I remember it was at a time where I just moved in with my wife, now Amy, and I, for some reason, moved half an hour further away from the office. And I remember even saying to Amy, like, I'm getting up at 4:30 because I'm getting into the office. I'm going to be the first one there. But I knew that I had 15, 16 people there that we had to provide for. So there was definitely that switch as well, where I'm not just a sales rep anymore. Like, I am responsible for this whole company and the people that work within it. And I think that one of the things I love the most about our business is the people in it. So Toby is our office manager now. She's been with the company 25 years. So she was, I was 4 when she started.
Wow.
Jodie, 20 years. Brent, 25 years. Like, we are a family. And I love them all so much. And they work hard for me and I work hard for them. And I think that's why we do so well, but also why we get so much repeat business as well, because it really shines through to the clients. And I think that was the other thing as well. It's like I generally really like everybody that works within the company, and I've got a lot of time for them. And that's, again, probably one of the reasons why I want to work that extra little bit harder for them as well.
Well, it's a mindset shift. I don't know who said this phrase. Wherever I heard it, it stuck with me. And it's the shift, which is a boy looks to be fed, a man looks to feed. So you are an individual contributor, which is, I've got to hit my sales target so I can hit my commission. Come on, Dad, I need more money. Boy looking to be fed. And then it's like, hang on, I've got to put food on the table for the whole company now. That's a man looking to feed.
Yeah.
So it sounds like on a commercial level, there was a step up from that more selfish, what about me, to, oh, actually, it's not about me. It's about the team and the company.
Yeah. And that's happened more and more as the years have gone on. So this is the 4th financial year we've been in. And it just solidified. Like, one of the mistakes that I did make was we had a really profitable year going from that 3 to 4 with the same overheads. And I looked at the money in the bank and I was like, fucking hell. And I was only 25 and I spent more than I should have done. But again, learning curve.
Yeah, you gotta learn.
Learning
you
curve.
gotta learn that.
I remember paying myself a dividend and I went out and bought a 30 grand Rolex.
Yeah.
And I like my watches, but I look back now and I'm like, why
How
the
did you
fuck
do that?
did I do that?
But I think you have to do that.
Yeah.
Like that's part of it. I've introduced to one of my mentors and friends, Gareth. And when I was working for Gareth, you know, right before my 18th birthday, I sold over £400,000 of new business, like closed, and all of a sudden I've got more money than I knew what to do with. The same thing for me, it was a Breitling. I bought a Breitling, started spending all the money, and then it all disappeared. And I looked at it all, and it's easy. Back then it was almost like I think there was a bit of insecurity. There was a bit of I love the watch, you know, I wanted that watch, and it was the goal that I'd set for the year. But I think whenever you start making more money at a considerable rate than before, most people go, oh, cool, I can just go and spend that. Yeah. And then they go and spend it. And then it's like, oh, I've kind of learned the lesson. And you have to go through that, I think. Any ambitious entrepreneur or business owner that's listening to that, like if you've just broken through to another earning level, take my advice, just put it in ISA somewhere. Like, there's nothing wrong with spoiling yourself, and there's nothing wrong with getting the things that you want. And I think every entrepreneur that breaks through that earning level has to make those mistakes to a degree.
I think it was a time, though, it was good timing in the sense of during COVID. That's when I downloaded Trading 212, and I started to understand about the stock market. And I was like, oh, if I buy this, it goes up. I'm going to make more money. They're going to pay me a dividend. Luckily, I found an obsession in that as well. And we spoke about it before. Like, I love the stock market and that whole area of investing, and then crypto, and then I was buying properties. So luckily, I found ways of investing
in a healthy way.
in a healthy way.
You chose that addiction.
Yeah. So
right.
Rather than buy, I mean, I've still got one watch now that I love, but rather than buying things, the liabilities, I started to realize that if we buy the assets, then we're going to be better off.
The tricky thing of watches is you can convince yourself that if you buy the right one, it's an asset.
Yeah.
Well, it might go up in value, or you never know. Yeah. So, that's the trick. That's the problem with watches. The watch I wear, it's actually a Timberland watch.
Nice.
It's my dad's watch. So I bought this. I say I bought it. My mum bought it. You know, but I remember picking it. I was 5, and
5.
with 5.
Wow.
Yeah, and I remember seeing it in the shop. I was like, why should we get Daddy? And I was like, that one. And we got him this watch, and he wore it every day to work. He works in a factory, and but he now works in a pharmaceutical factory. He's like coming up to retirement, and but he doesn't wear watches anymore. And it was sat on the side. I was like, Dad, why don't you wear your watch anymore? And he's like, oh, I don't wear them. I've got to take them off every day because everything's like super hygienic. Like bacteria has to be destroyed. You can't wear anything. I was like, so you don't want it anymore? Nah. I was like, can I wear it? I was like, yeah. So I wear this watch.
I love that
as a reminder, because my dad made a lot of sacrifices to give me what I needed to get on in life. But I love watches. I think they're really, really beautiful. And for me, it's irrelevant of the brand. If you remove the sticker or the label, how does a watch look with the design in there? If no one else could know about the watch, would you still want it?
Yeah.
And that for me is what watches can be a rabbit hole if you're not careful, because you can start collecting them. But anyway, so you've broken through that stage, and you've really settled down now. When we first started to work together, so I have 2 types of clients really. One is, oh my gosh, things are scaling so fast. I'm so stressed. I'm so overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. I know that I've got some big changes coming up. But I'm struggling to manage myself. That's one half of my client set. You're in the other half of my client set, which is life's good. I'm in a really, really good place. I don't know what I don't know. I'm curious. Is there another league or another level within me? Why did you explore mental performance coaching? Like what?
So I know Ben Hawksworth really well. Known Ben for a long time, and I know he'd spoke very highly of you. I also did a podcast with Nathan, and at this point, I had various things going on. I had the podcast. I was doing the motivational speaking. I was running OSI, and then I was doing mindset coaching as well. And obviously, I see it now, but at the time, I couldn't see it. And one of the insecurities that I had, which we've obviously worked really well to get through, is that I had an insecurity that I had to build something myself. And I thought mindset coaching was that thing, as a combination of the motivational speaking, Tom's talks, as a separate entity. And there was the passion to help people as well, don't get me wrong. But you said to me, what's the thing you love the most? And what's the thing that's draining your energy? I said, the thing I love the most is standing up and speaking. Second to that is running OSI. And the thing that's draining my energy is coaching. Because at the time I was working with a particular client that was just constantly trauma dumping, and it was a Saturday morning. Every Saturday I would do my coaching. 6 days a week I was working. And you helped me realise that was not helping me in any way, shape or form. It was not necessary. And you helped me understand that what I really wanted to do was scale OSI and eliminate that insecurity that I had to build something on my own. And you said it, and also Elliot said, it was like, yeah, but Tom, just because you didn't start from scratch doesn't mean you've not done a great thing. You took it from X to X, Y, Z, etc. And that takes some fucking effort. Yeah. So I'd be proud of that. And then that's when we started focusing on the 20%. You made me read a book that I remember you said, I don't know if this is the best book to read while you're on holiday, but I'm going to give it you anyway. And I remember reading it, and I read it, probably the fastest book I've ever read, and it was 10x is faster than 2x. And then since then, it's just been 10x, 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 10x. And you kindly introduced me to Gareth. And yeah, the next 18 months is just going to be an incredible journey.
If you was going to describe how you were feeling at the beginning of the process, we've been working together right since the beginning of the year. If you look back at that version of you and how you felt when you started versus the Tom that's showing up today, like how would you describe the difference between those two guys?
Calmer, lighter, clearer, cool.
Versus before?
Rushed.
Yeah.
Million miles an hour. I think I had to validate myself that if I did do 12 hours, I didn't feel good enough. Now I'm working less and making more. One thing that we spoke about is eliminating the emails and the crypto apps and the stocks, constantly chasing that validation of an email or whatever, and just finding peace and solidarity of just being in the moment, just being happy here, where I am, and not constantly chasing something that's either there or it's not there. And from there, just waking up and just having a better vision of what actually matters and what I actually want compared to what I think I want, which has been a game changer.
Well, it's a big illusion, right? What we think we want often isn't what we want. And what I saw when you walked in was I saw a guy that was walking around with like 30 kg in a backpack, and he's trying to walk 3 paths at once, and he keeps splitting his attention. He's working 12-hour days, and it's like when I was boxing, I was overtraining all the time, so I don't think I truly hit my potential because I was training 2-3 times a day, and I was eating 1,400 to 1,500 calories a day, and I wasn't resting enough. And as a result, I was doing good, but I never really hit greatness as to what my full potential was. And then I learned the same lesson again in software sales in London, where I was like, I can't crack through this, what's going on? And it was only when my own mentor at the time was Hazel, she made me realize, I thought I wanted an Olympic gold medal for Team GB in boxing, but actually that wasn't what I wanted. I wanted to sell. I wanted to help people. I wanted to go and be in the city and do that. And sometimes we need an external change agent to hold up a mirror to the blind spots that we don't necessarily see for ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's such a coaching cliche, right? Getting out of your own way. But essentially that is what it is. But we can't always read the label from inside the bottle. So it takes someone else to go, wait a minute, why are you on this path? Why are you doing that? And that's what I could see, which was, you didn't need to be working anywhere near as hard as you was, and you didn't need to be splitting your attention across so many different things.
Yeah. And the other thing as well that you helped me see clarity in was the benefits of, rather than it being Tom's Talks and OSI, bringing the two together and utilising both to benefit each other. And now that's the solidarity in the team internally, is that wherever you need to utilise Tom's Talks, and wherever Thomas talks needs to, we can utilise OSI, and it's not separate entities. It's one entity, and it's all, everything is in the right place, going in the right direction.
That was quite fun. So sometimes, depending on the client that's in front of me, I can spot business development opportunities and energy management opportunities, and essentially what I saw for Tom was something that none of his competitors have, which is a very unique story that inspires schools and school children that need that advice and that help. But on top of that, he's also got a business that supplies schools, and there was a bit of internal friction insofar as Tom's going out and doing all of these talks, but he's meant to be doing this for the business, and as a result, there was 2 competing factors that were happening in business and in Tom's head. But the reality is, the more schools that Tom speaks in, the more people's hands that he shakes, the more lines of business that he's going to open, the more accounts he's going to open. So when we connected the 2 dots, it's not, I'm Tom, this is all about me. I need to make my own personal impact through my talks, through my own thing, which is actually, no, we've got full alignment. It's a rising tide lifts all ships. So that activity directly impacts the other activity. Well, and once the whole team's aligned towards what it is that you're doing, you have so much less friction.
Definitely. And it was the smile that I saw on my sister's face when I brought it up in the sales meeting. And she said, thank you. Like, you don't have to do that, but you're doing it not just for you, you're doing it for the benefit of everybody else. And it's interesting. So obviously, me and my sister are very close, like best friends. And there was a lot of friction internally with my brother and my sister that I spoke to you about. They were getting frustrated with the amount of time I was spending on Tom's Talks and the coaching. And then now we've come closer. We were close anyway, families argue and stuff like that, and then I said, Gemma, guess what? I've got a talk booked in at Rotherham College, Dane Valley College. They're your areas. You're coming with me. 2 new accounts that are going to spend a lot of money. And she was buzzing. Yeah. She was so happy. Yeah. And I said, exactly. It's together, not just me, not just you. It's solidarity.
You're all singing from the same hymn sheet, right?
Exactly.
And everyone's winning. So, yeah, sometimes scaling a business is about leverage. It's leveraging your thinking. You and I have had meetings where you were so bogged down in the detail and clinging on to things, that 80% now they speak about in the book, 10x is easier than 2x. And actually, a lot of my work at the beginning was just clearing that out. And actually, there were some moments where we didn't butt heads, but I could see friction where I was saying, well, hang on, all of this extra mentoring and coaching you're doing on the side, is that giving you what you need? You had another digital product that you'd built.
App.
Yeah, you built an app.
Yeah,
And then I was like, okay. And I think the app, I said, look, it's up to you. You can go and run it if you want, drop it or don't. But, you know, I'm looking at something where you could take this from 7 to 8 figures versus that. But if you need to go and get that out of your system and you're like, I need to get it out of my system, I'm going to run with it anyway. And then, you know, eventually you realize that bandwidth wasn't worth being spent.
Yeah, no, not at all. And again, it's just, you know, you have to challenge me on it. That's part of what you do. And in the end, I was only going to make the decision myself. And I did it and realised it wasn't the thing that I needed to do and it wasn't what I wanted to do. But it is what it is. It's all part of the journey and it's led to where we are today.
Yeah.
But I am very, very excited for the next 18 months.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely buzzing for it. I can't wait. And everything, I think we're all on the same, well, I know we're all on the same page, everybody in the business. And yeah, it's going to be a super exciting time.
Yeah. And when you have a relationship that's built on trust in the coaching and mentoring space, and you've also got to be able to time it. Like, I know that you're a big boy. I can challenge you, and you don't always agree, but you're very coachable, so you'll listen. And then sometimes you're like, I don't see it that way. And then there's other times where you'll challenge me, and you go, well, why do you think that? Where are you coming from here? And it's like this beautiful little wrestle sometimes. Sometimes it just flows, and sometimes there's a little bit of a wrestle.
Yeah.
But it's in the wrestle where muscles grow.
Yeah.
And sometimes it moves out of mentor-mentee relationship, and I move into something which is called a thinking partner. So as a thinking partner, instead of saying, Tom, do this, I'm playing devil's advocate. Well, what's the opposite of that? Or what have you considered this? Or what about this? What about this? Or, okay, well, how could we leverage your time? What are the biggest opportunities? What is the low-hanging fruit that you can step into to make those changes? And that's the fun of men's performance consultancy is once you've got the foundations installed, then you start to play more on a partner level than solely just do this, you know?
Yeah. It must be a very rewarding job for yourself.
It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of the breakthroughs you have with people, I can imagine how fulfilling it must be.
You know, man, like, so I recently take on board a former MMA fighter, grappling expert, and unfortunately through illness and sickness and injury, he's not been able to compete in the UFC and do the things that he wants to do. And for fighters, sparring is the best. Like, most fighters really love sparring. It's the best thing ever. But what can happen is it's really hard to find something that's as good as sparring. Like, really difficult because of the adrenaline, because of how fun it is. And this guy I just told you about, he asked me, he was like, sparring's like the best and I can't spar. Have you, don't tell me you found something that's comparable. And I said, actually I have. And he goes, what's that? And I said, the conversation we're having right now is my new equivalent of sparring, because it's so fun, it's so engaging, it's a creative pursuit. I have a very specific process that I use to help generate results, but sometimes, just like in sparring and fighting, that goes out the window, and then actually you're leaning on intuition and you're leaning on experience and you're leaning on other things, and that's an inherently creative, fun pursuit. So for me, like, I had a decision to make 3 years ago with Total Mental Performance, which is let my one-to-one clients go and step fully into management, and only do that to take TMP from, say, 5 coaches up to 10 to 15 to 20. And I just wasn't willing to do that because I love this. This is the... Money didn't exist, I'd still do it every single day of the week and twice on Sundays, you know. I always said if I had a superpower, it would be to be able to spar 3 rounds and then I press a button and I reset and I could just keep sparring. Well, it's the same thing for this. You know, if I didn't get so tired because of my human physical limitations, I'd do like this for like 10 hours straight, no problem. And I think when you find that thing that you like, that thing that you're good at, the thing that the world needs and the thing that you can get paid for, that's a kikai, right? That is that reason for being that the Japanese say. So it never feels like work. Even what we're doing right now, this doesn't feel like work, this feels like play. And when you find your calling, and you have the backing, the belief, and the meaning behind it, it never feels like work, mate.
Yeah.
I always look forward to our calls.
Yeah.
They're always fun.
Same. I wake up every morning and think, right, let's get it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So, what would you say the biggest breakthrough for you was? Because on the outside looking in, a lot of people would say, like, Tom had it sweet. Like, he was already good. Like, how could he possibly get any better?
I think it was honestly reading that book, 10x is faster than 2x, but it was the timing of it as well. You sent me it just before I went to Mexico for 10 days, where all I was going to be doing is sat around a pool, and it gave me that time and that space to actually read it. And where we sat around the pool as well, there was no Wi-Fi, so there was no opportunity for me to go on my phone. I didn't want to download the 5G. I just purely got my head into that book, and I read it faster than I've read any other book, and just really absorbed the information. And then I sent you a text saying, I've read it, it's great, thank you very much. And then you asked me the questions, what's the biggest takeaways? And then when I knew how much I'd absorbed the information, because when I was relaying the information to you on the questions that you'd asked, it just solidified the next steps for me as a person, and what I need to do moving forward. And at that point, you'd help me here and here.
It's pointing to his head and his heart.
Yeah, and it was just clear. It was just pure clarity. That I think that's the best way I can describe the breakthrough, was just pure clarity on what I actually wanted and how we were going to get there.
So, I haven't read 1,000 books, but I've read often the same books again and again and again and again and again. And I think the timing of a good book, right time, right place, will completely change your life. And I think it's better to read a great book 5 times than it is to read 50 okay or good books. And with that one, I was already, I don't know if you know this, but I was already instilling 10x is easier than 2x, but I was doing it in different ways. So I was looking at, run me through your day, like take me across, where are you spending time, where are you spending energy, what is emotionally draining all of your energy, okay, and how do you think better, how do you feel better, how do you want to feel on a daily basis, what's stopping you from feeling that. Then once I felt like we had the psychological foundations in place and we had your structures in place, right before you went away, I knew if I dropped the book then versus you listening to it to a car on the way to a meeting or whatever, you're either going to read it on the plane or you were going to read it by the pool. And because you had that space of that holiday, that was just going to install, well, basically strengthen the lines of code I was putting into your unconscious mind. So now when you and I are speaking, I can just ask straight, well, hang on, is that 80% or is that 20%? And you just get it. No, that's 80%. Right. Well, let's get back to the 20%. Why is the 20% that needs to happen? So a well-timed book can change everything. But it was the work we did before that that led you up to that point where I was like, right, now this is gonna go. And really my job where you're at right now is super simple. It's just keeping you in the 20% because we've got you there. And as you're seeing the commercial results, you're seeing the next 12 to 18 months and what you've got coming up, that clarity, that's only going to happen if you stay on the 20%. If you get dragged back into the 80%, and part of that's identity change, so letting go of what you believe you had to do, or letting go of ideas and limiting beliefs of yourself, the team, the company, and what's achievable there, and stepping into, well, hang on, if I am going to double this business, then I've got to make certain decisions. I've got to create systems. I've got to trust the team. I've got to make the right hires. And now you're stepping out of the, how can I get to a meeting and try and get this last deal closed, to how can I build SOPs that's going to enable me to hire a sales force at speed and at scale,
Yeah, that was a lot of fun doing the SOPs.
Yeah.
Again, like that says, isn't it? I remember when we first spoke back in January or February, I was telling you that we'd had a quiet month, and I was stressing about. I went out my way to close a 5K deal, and then we'd obviously done the work, and now it's just like a small internal change. Well, I'll send one of the reps to go close the 5K deal. That's why would I spend my time doing that? I've got a 350 grand deal that's taking a lot more bandwidth, that's going to be a lot more profitable, that I need the energy and the resources, the mentality to do it. That's it, just the small little changes. Whereas if I was like, oh yeah, I'll just go out 20 minutes out of my way to close that, and then it takes away from the actual what really matters. Again, like you said, the 20%. Yeah, it's been, like I said to you before, mate, it's been an absolute game changer.
We're also looking at leverage, to how you're leveraging your time and the things that you're working on, because there are certain things that you work on that's going to have a lot more leverage. And before, you were more of a workhorse. You used volume over precision to go and achieve goals, whereas now we're using focused volume but with precision. And you know, when you start to realize, oh, hang on, why am I chasing this deal over here when actually there's something much bigger for me to go and work on? Why am I getting stuck in this small area when actually the strategic view is to go and chase the bigger accounts, or to go and build a team or build the system that's going to go get them, empower them to go and chase those accounts on your behalf. And there's a gear shift that happened for you to do that.
Yeah, it's like we said, didn't we, for the revenue that we generate as a business, I'm responsible for almost half of it, which is great, but for scaling the business, not so much. And we said, didn't we, that I could bring myself out of sales, train 6 people. They might only do 80% of what I'm doing, but times that by 6, it's better than one person doing it on their own. And again, it's just the small little mindset changes.
Yeah.
It's leverage, like you said. It's leverage rather than volume or doing it that way. So, yeah.
Oh, what would you say to Tom at the beginning of the process? Or what would you say as you look back at him, you look at him in the eyes and where he was at to where you are now? Like,
I'd say fuck the coaching off straight away, just for the things that happened.
your one-to-one mindset.
Yeah,
that
I told you about.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just talking about one client here. The rest of them were great, but I had a really bad experience with one client, but I'll not get into that. And I would say it's going to be the best thing you've ever done. But I think I don't have any regrets with the work we've been doing together, because I feel like everything you've asked me to do, I've done it to the full capacity of what I can do, and therefore I think that's why I've got the most out of it as I have. But I would just say, the only thing I would say is do it sooner. That would be probably the biggest thing, would be do it sooner.
And had you ever looked at any of this type of work before?
I don't know. I just knew there was something internally I needed to change. And me and Nathan spoke about it on the podcast. I said, I just know internally there's something I need to do to just unlock that next level. I definitely knew there was an insecurity inside of me about my validation came from how hard I worked. But then realizing that it's not about how hard you work, it's about how smart you work, and the leverage and everything else that we discussed. I'd not looked at it before, but I'd seen you come up multiple times via Ben and via other people, and I knew that you came highly recommended. And there's the thing as well about, like, I knew the cost of it before. Like, something is only expensive if you don't see a return on value of what you're spending. And I knew that the amount that I would spend, I would get the value back, and I would see the return on investment. And there was that as well. I knew that from the first call. Because, let's be honest, for most people, it's not affordable, is it? But it's not affordable for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. You know, it's, you work with people that want to go from good to great, and that they want that mindset change. And I knew that straight away on that first call. I'm like, this is going to be an investment that is going to be a very worthwhile investment. And it has been. It's been, like I said to you many times before, it's been the best thing that I've ever done. It's been the best investment that I've made. All the stocks and crypto that I've bought, it's been the best.
Why do you say that?
Why has it been the best?
Yeah, from an investment standpoint. Because obviously it's very black and white, right? Which is, I put this much into this dividend, I see this yield, or I see this in crypto and it's grown this much.
Because as I said in myself, you know, when I was doing the coaching, and as I've spoke to people about the talks, and, you know, I am somebody that invests in property and stocks and shares and crypto, but the best investment that you'll ever make is within yourself. And that's not just from a psychological standpoint, it's your health, it's your physical health. You know, if you mentally can jump on a call and close a deal, great. But if you don't have the capacity because you're fucked, because you've got no energy from eating shit, smoking, drinking, whatever, not exercising, then you're not going to have the capacity to do it for very long. And somebody that might be half as good, but looks after the physical health, has got the endurance to do it longer, so they're going to be better off. Yeah. So the best investment you'll ever make before you invest in anything tangible is invest within yourself, whether that is through therapy or through a coach or through fitness or through health or nutrition. Will always be. I don't know anybody that looks after their fitness and their physical health that is in a bad place.
Yeah.
If you prioritize that first, and like I said to you earlier, for me, the first thing I'll do in the morning is do some form of exercise, because I know that the clarity, the energy, and the focus that I've got for the rest of the day is second to none. Whereas if I don't do that, then it's nowhere near as good. So that's why the investment that you make within yourself, whether it's through your physical health or your mental health, will always be the best investment that you'll ever make.
Yeah. The reason I ask is in this type of coaching and mentorship, when you are working with just the mind, with a business investment, you can see I put in £10,000 here, I'll see an extra 8% on that, I made 800 quid, great. In a fitness journey, you can see, oh, look, my muscles are bigger and I'm leaner, and it's a very tangible result. Whereas I think there's a lot of people that are nervous to invest in this type of coaching because it's not as black and white. I can't put you on a scale and say, look, you've lost X amount of kilos, or the financial investment has gone, your portfolio has gone from here to here, right? For most of my clients that make the leap, like they know that. There's a lot of people that they know they should, but there's something in them, and it's hard for them to see a tangible return on investment. What would you say if you look at your tangible return on investment? How has that worked out for you?
So working less, earning more. So I think it was either the third or fourth month we'd been working together. I'd had the best month. So I am the managing director, but I am responsible for the majority of the sales as well. And I'd had my best month in sales by far, the best month in business for me in terms of my own compensation by far. And it was then just like I said, it was the working less, doing more. Sorry, working less, earning more.
Yeah.
And again, you can't, on a piece of paper, you can't see that internally, but then you can see it on a piece of paper, because you're like, well, I'm earning 3, 4, 5x more than I was 3 or 4 months ago, and I'm working 3, 4, 5 hours less.
Yeah.
I'm not working Saturdays anymore. I think that was one of the biggest things, was waking up on a Saturday, and I used to dread jumping on a call. I was like, I can't be arsed.
You didn't have the energy.
They didn't have the energy. Yeah. And then the rest of the day, then Amy would say multiple times, it ruins our weekend.
Yeah.
Because you come off it, these clients come on with his trauma and his everything else. It's put you in a bad mood, and then it just ruins the weekend. And then we actually went wedding ring shopping, went to get this. So I said to all the clients I was working with, not that I was working with a lot, I'm not working this Saturday. We'll fit the call in elsewhere, but I'm having Saturday off because I'm going wedding ring shopping. It's an important day. And I got to the end of the Saturday, we had a great day, bought the wedding ring. Oh, fucking hell, that was nice.
Yeah.
I want to do that again.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, essentially, one of the biggest return on investments I help clients with is helping them work through the emotional side. So that insecurity that was causing the behavior for you to push so hard. It's helping you recognize the various different opportunities and the opportunity cost of you working so hard. But then also by taking your energy and your bandwidth off of the commercial projects that just weren't aligned with your long-term goals and what it is that you wanted to do. And you're not looking through the lens of, I need to prove my worth with building my own separate business on the side of what I'm doing. Yeah. You're able to recover faster, so you have more energy. You feel a lot more emotionally stable, and the decisions you make are a hell of a lot better. You're freeing up mental bandwidth, so you can really think about the problems that need to be solved. And then we're just allocating what you're spending your time on differently. Sounds overly simplistic, because there are emotional intricacies of, but why should I let that go, or why should I spend more time on this? There are other moments where it's just like, that makes total sense. Set up one meeting, have that conversation, see what happens. But when you're bogged down in volume versus precision, when you're bogged down in the 80% versus the 20%, I think that was really the thing that was keeping you stuck.
Yeah, no, definitely. Agreed.
Cool. Have you got any questions you'd like to ask me? Throwing you on the spot.
Yeah, one that came to mind earlier. What is your bandwidth in your day to day? Like how many calls with your clients do you have capacity for in a row? Is it one or two, and then you think I ain't got the energy to do this again?
Yeah, so I've learned at this stage of my life to structure my diary in a very different way. So Mondays is a no call day. That's total creative work. So I'll wake up, family, home stuff, go to the gym, train, come out, and then that's either I'll have a call with Kirsten, my right hand, and then we'll be creative. So that might be ticking off various different creative projects. Maybe I sit down and I'll do some writing. I like to get out of the office and go somewhere different. Then Tuesdays, Wednesday evenings, and Thursdays are my coaching days. So I'll have 4 one-to-one sessions, and I
Back
have
to back.
yeah. So what I used to do is I used to have an hour between calls, but then what I realized was actually that hour I wasn't getting anything done. Now, that's on purpose, right? Because before, when I first started out, I was doing, I think, 28 one-to-ones a week. Now I do 10, and I was back to back to back to back to back, and I was just exhausted. Now I chose that life, and I enjoyed that life, and it allowed me to fast track the results I could get with clients because I was picking up more experience faster and getting more results, and the compound effect of experience was really winning. I was also in a position where, in my field, that's not a normal amount of demand to have for your coaching services, which is why I had a waiting list that was going up to 4 or 5 months. So then I was like, well, these people are willing to wait. It's not really fair. So that's where I started hiring others 5 years ago and built the TMP team. So now I work, my first call is at 2 p.m. and the next one is at 3:30, and then it just goes like that for the next 4 calls. So that's really my production capacity.
Why 2 p.m.? Why not earlier?
I'm not a morning person.
Right.
I can't function in the mornings whatsoever. Whereas at about between 7 and 10 p.m., my brain is on fire.
Right.
Like my best work comes in the night time. It doesn't happen in the morning.
Yeah.
So I treat my mornings a little bit more like my evenings. Obviously, isn't always possible with personal life and family, but where I can get away with it, I'll dive in deeper there. And I've always been that way. Like when I worked in software sales, I would get to the office truly exhausted. Like I would get there at 8 in the morning, completely exhausted, kind of bully myself through all of the activities of the morning, and then around 2 p.m. I'd start to wake up, and then around 7 p.m., 8 p.m. I was on fire. So I negotiated. Not only was I selling into Europe when I was working at Rakuten, the 4th largest e-commerce company in the world. They sponsored Barcelona, they sponsored football club, they sponsored the Golden State Warriors. I said to one of my mentors, "Hey, in the company, can I sell into the US?" They went, "What do you mean?" I was like, "I'm really awake in the evenings. I'll still sell into Europe during the day, but I'd love to sell into the US because they were behind us in London." So then I'd work into the evenings selling, and so I essentially doubled my commission because America's a much bigger territory, and I had all of my business there in Europe. So I've always been a night owl. I remember as a kid waking up exhausted. That might be something to do with the ADHD. So delayed sleep cycles can happen. So I've just set up my week that way. Wednesday afternoon is called a king day. So 2 p.m. till 6 p.m. I rest because my Mondays and my Tuesdays have been pretty heavy duty. So I go to I live in an area where we have beach clubs in the beach. So when it's not too hot, go down to the beach. If sometimes I like to catch up with friends and we play a game of chess and have a coffee and just sort of chat away. And then I have 2 client sessions in the evening and some deep work. Thursday, back-to-back calls, and then Fridays is a creative day. So
when you say creative, then what sort of creative tasks are you doing? What does that look like?
Yeah, so that might be thinking about you guys as my clients. So sometimes I'll just sit there I've got a specific client journal, and I'll sit down and I'll go, where's Tom at in the coaching process? What challenges has Tom got going on right now? Where is it that he's trying to go? How can I create an even more powerful one-to-one coaching experience? If there was a book that I'd recommend that read, or if there was a task or whatever. So it might be around my one-to-one clients. Sometimes it's content. So I'm here on a tour in Manchester at the moment doing lots of podcasts this week, but usually I'll shoot the podcast on Friday. These are just creative conversations, right? That then go out onto the podcast. So it might be podcasts sometimes.
Podcasting is great, though, isn't it?
I
I
lo-
just sit and do this.
I love podcasting.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah.
Even when I was having breakfast earlier, when we was talking about all the intellectual things that we was talking about, it's just one of my favorite things to do is sit and have a conversation, just as you say, shoot the shit.
Yeah, and what I like about a podcast is it's quite it can be an open conversation, but it's also quite structured. So I always like speaking with people I'm fascinated by. So whether that's a client or a friend or somebody that's an expert in the field, and just chatting with them and picking their brains and asking their
Curiosity,
questions.
isn't it? It's
Yeah,
a wonderful thing.
That's pretty much what creative day is. Saturdays are always off.
What about your morning routine? I know you said that you're not a morning person, but you know we spoke a lot about social media, and obviously that's another thing that has really helped limiting the amount of time spending on my phone. One habit that I would always try and instill into my clients when I was working with them was just try and avoid your phone for that first hour. Yeah. Is that? I imagine that's something that you do, but is there anything else that you do within your mornings that gears you up for the rest of the day?
Training.
Training,
yeah, like without a doubt, training. When I can, I've got a hand niggle at the moment, but when I can, boxing. I don't know why. I just feel amazing for the rest of the day, particularly if I'm hitting pads or doing some light sparring.
Do you like running with the boxing?
I love running. Yeah, I really, really love running. But I don't like running long distances.
So what sort of doing, like 5Ks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even then, sometimes it's just 3-minute rounds or 4-minute rounds of sprints on the machine. Sometimes it's cycling. I ended up with plantar fasciitis from wearing a pair of Birkenstocks for too long. I was wearing them everywhere, and then I slowly developed that. So I had to stop the running and kind of work my way back in.
Yeah.
I can't run like some of my other clients that are doing 270-kilometer runs across the desert. It's like, what?
You didn't know I did my first ever 10K on Sunday, and then I felt amazing, but equally very, very tired after it. And you're like, this guy does 200 odd kilometers. I'm like,
yeah.
Wow.
So I think, like for me, I take my mornings super slow, and that works for me. Whenever I'm rushed, it depends. If I've got a meeting, right, then no problem. Like, I can just wake up and go out the door. If I don't have that, I prefer to wake up, and I never eat my breakfast. I always stay fasted for the mornings, and I play with Tail, my dog, and I wind him up, and he's like super cuddly and tactile in the mornings. In the evenings, he's not interested. In the mornings, so I like to play with him, and then do all the family stuff and go straight to the gym. Get into the gym, train, come back, lunch, and then every day I have a meeting with Kirsten, my assistant, and like we just dive straight in operational tasks, tick this off, tick this. She's like my second brain. Because of the ADHD, there's a lot of memory issues. I have a very poor memory, so all of my client notes, they're huge, they're so detailed. Like I could tell you the exact belief that you had on a certain date, and the emotion that you were feeling and where you were feeling it and how it was holding you back. And I have to go for that level of detail because I don't have that part of my brain, doesn't function very well. So Kirsten, she has the opposite. She has an elephant brain. So she rocks up and she's like, right, Kieran, tax returns needs to be done here. I've already prepared it here. I need you to sign this off or adjust this, or I booked this for you. I've got this done, or I need a decision on this. And she's amazing. And I find that's a way of, I guess, leveraging the team and the systems to go, right, here are my strengths. So like front of camera, front of client, all of that stuff. The back end, I don't have it in my locker, and she just takes care of all of that. She's amazing. You're probably listening to this. Thanks, Kirsten. I appreciate you deeply.
Awesome.
Yeah. Cool. Well, look, mate, it's been a super powerful conversation today. I appreciate you. I appreciate your energy. It's always a joy. Whenever I see that we've got a call in the diary, I'm like, right, here we go. Because it really is taking you from good to great. Therapy is more like 0 to 1. How do I get somebody stable? How do I get them into a mental health place where they're okay? I think more sort of surface level life coaching or mindset coaching is maybe 1 to 10, whereas you came in at 10 and we're taking you to 100, and that's the bit that is such a fun, exciting process. And I know with the clarity that you've got, with the support team that we've put in place for you, Yeah, man. And what you're going to do over the next 12 to 18 months is going to be amazing. It's just about doing the same thing again and again and again, staying focused, staying in the 20%, not going to 80%. And that's it.
No, I can't express my gratitude enough for you, mate. And yeah, it's been, like I said, I say it again, the best thing I've ever done. Not just for me, but for Amy as well. I said, I think Amy loves you just as much as I do, with the home life as well, and the presentness that I've been able to achieve, and just being really in the moment. And it's thanks to you. So I appreciate you, mate. Thank you.
Pleasure. Teamwork makes the dream work. Where can everyone find you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is @toms.talks_. Tom's Talks on TikTok, YouTube. Yeah, the social media has been a great one, actually. The platform's grown quite significantly in the last 18 months, which is great, and just continuing to grow. So, yeah, @toms.talks_, and then Tom's Talks and everything else.
Cool. All right, team. Well, that's another episode of the Total Mental Performance podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Please do like and subscribe. If you found this helpful or useful, share it with somebody in your network. Infinite love. See you in the next episode.